Chapter 16. I like your locket, he said, his face expressionless. Using 2 fingers, he raised the silver heart Roxy wore around her neck and studied it. It's very delicate, isn't it, he said, giving it a little tug, just hard enough to make Roxy uncomfortable. He let go and raised his eyes to hers. Roxy felt a cold chill. He's playing a cruel game, she thought. He's deliberately trying to scare me, and he's doing a really good job of it. I've got to go, she said in a tiny voice she barely recognized. Catch you later, Lee replied casually. He gave her a 2-fingered salute, tipping his fingers against his temple. As Roxy hurried away, running over the rocky dune, she could feel his eyes on her, could feel the cold his shadow had lowered over her, could feel the dread of his strange, dark smile. So why did the police let him go? Roxy demanded. Mr. Nelson cleared his throat. He picked up his napkin and spread it over his lap. Can't we have a pleasant dinner? Roxy's mom asked, passing the platter of chicken to Roxy. Can't you talk about this later? No, now, Roxy insisted. She took the platter and lowered a breast and a wing onto her plate. Is this regular or extra crispy? Mr. Nelson asked. I got the regular, Mrs. Nelson told him, passing the container of coleslaw. You always say the extra crispy is too crispy. Want a biscuit? Can we please stop talking about the chicken? Roxy wailed. Your father and I have worked hard all day and we are hungry, her mother insisted. But I'm talking about life and death here, Roxy cried. She reached over and grabbed her father's hand, stopping it on the way to his mouth. Why did the police let Lee go? You talked to them, right? Mr. Nelson set down the chicken leg. He nodded. Lee Bloom had an alibi. His parents said he was at the charity fundraiser at the Elks the whole evening. Huh? His parents said he was there? Roxy demanded shrilly. And the police just took their word? Lots of people saw him there, Mr. Nelson replied. The police asked a dozen people. They all said Lee was there. But he could have sneaked out early, Roxy protested. How could the police just let him go? They had to, her father told her. They had no reason to hold him. No reason? No reason, Roxy shrieked. How about he killed a girl in his living room? Isn't that a reason? Roxy, please, her mother pleaded. You're getting all worked up. Roxy glared across the table at her, breathing hard. They searched his living room, his whole house, Mr. Nelson said, picking up his chicken leg again. They didn't see anything suspicious. So now you think I'm crazy? Roxy cried in a trembling voice. Now you think I made up the whole thing? Mr. Nelson raised a hand, a signal for her to lower her voice, to calm down. I think you heard something, but you didn't see anything, right? You didn't actually see Lee Bloom. Roxy shook her head. She couldn't admit that she had been in the house, that she had seen the girl with the blonde ringlets. She had to keep to her story that she had heard the whole fight from the front stoop. So, what should I do? She asked, unable to keep the fear from her voice. What should I do now? Stay away from that boy, her mother instructed, her green eyes locked on Roxy with concern. Don't go to the beach by yourself, Mr. Nelson added. Be very careful, Roxy, until this whole thing is solved. Want to go to the beach? It's such a great night, Terry said. How about a nice long walk? Okay, Roxy told him, jumping up from the couch. Let me tell my parents where I'm going. Terry had dropped by after dinner. He had seen at once that Roxy wasn't herself, that she was tense and preoccupied. What's up? He had asked, tapping his chubby hand on a living room couch arm. I'm just a little stressed out, Roxy had replied. I don't really know why. Of course, she couldn't tell him what was really on her mind. She couldn't tell him about the bet about Lee. Terry had a temper, too. I keep thinking about that girl who was murdered, she confessed, lowering her eyes. You know, the one they found at Hunter's Dunes? Maddie, Terry muttered. Huh? Roxy gaped at him, startled. What did you say? His cheeks turned bright pink. Maddie, he repeated. Her name was Maddie Andrews. I knew her. But she isn't from Rocky Shores, Roxy said, watching Terry's blush grow darker. Yeah, she's from Springdale, Terry replied, gazing toward the window. I knew her at camp, remember? That camp I was a junior counselor at 2 years ago? Roxy narrowed her eyes at him suspiciously. She didn't like the fact that he was blushing so red. How well did you get to know her that summer, Terry? She demanded. Terry chuckled. Pretty well, he replied, still avoiding her eyes. Roxy waited for him to continue, but he stared at the window, lost in thought. Finally, he climbed to his feet and stretched his arms over his head. How about that walk on the beach? The full moon was still low in the evening sky as they stepped off the dunes. Silver slips of light reflected in the choppy purple water. A million tiny pinpricks of starlight dotted the clear sky. The scene was so beautiful, it cheered Roxy up immediately. "Piggyback ride!" she shouted, grabbing Terry's shoulders and jumping on his broad back. He laughed and started running over the pebbly beach, neighing like a horse, bouncing her high as he ran. It was a favorite game of theirs. Terry carried her to the shore edge, then pretended to fall into the water. "Stop it!" she squealed. He laughed. "Ready for a swim?" "No, no way," Roxy protested. "Let me off." Climbing down, Roxy adjusted the blue sweater she had tied around the waist of her shorts. Then she slipped off her sandals and walked barefoot along the wet, sandy shore. The cold water lapped against her ankles. The air smelled fresh and clean. She slid her hands behind his neck and stood on tiptoe to kiss him. A long, tender kiss. His lips tasted salty. She kissed him again. Then they walked holding hands, bumping each other gently, past other couples and groups enjoying the beach on a beautiful night. Some kids from their school gathered around a small campfire, their boombox blaring called to them. Their faces were orange in the flickering light. Roxy waved and kept walking. Terry slipped a heavy arm around her shoulders. It felt warm and comforting. She smiled contentedly at him. She was starting to feel better. She hadn't thought about Lee or the girl with blonde ringlets for nearly an hour. The beach curved toward a wall of black rocks that jutted out into the water, forming a natural jetty. This part of the beach lay dark and empty. The waves were higher here. Roxy could hear them washing against the dark rock wall. Terry bent down to pick up something from the pebbly sand. He was always finding treasures on the beach that he carried home and kept in his room. He lifted the dark, round object close to his face to examine it in the pale moonlight. Roxy saw that it was a horseshoe crab shell. "Yuck, put it down, it smells!" she cried, moving away from him. Terry laughed. "Try working in a fish store all day. You won't notice bad smells at all. This smells like perfume to me." He tossed the shell down. They continued walking toward the rock wall. The sand gave way to large, smooth rocks. They felt hard and cold under Roxy's bare feet. She gazed up at the full moon. Thin wisps of dark cloud floated over it like a filmy curtain. When she lowered her eyes, the tall white lifeguard station came into view. Roxy let out a low cry of surprise as she realized someone was sitting up there. Not moving. Staring. No. Squinting into the soft moonlight, she saw the pale bones, the gaping skull. A skeleton. Whoa! A chill of fear ran down her back. Roxy took a hesitant step closer, trying to focus. And staring hard, she realized it wasn't a skeleton after all. Several large, round rocks had been piled in a chair to form a human figure, like a stony snowman. A stone sculpture. Kids probably put it up there as a joke, Roxy realized. What is wrong with me? I've got to calm down. And just as she scolded herself for mistaking a pile of stones for a skeleton, she saw a dark figure moving quickly toward her over the rocks. At first, Roxy thought she was seeing things again. Perhaps it was just a shadow cast by the clouds over the moon. But staring straight ahead, she saw that it was a man. No, a boy, tall and thin. He was walking quickly, easily over the rocky ground. Roxy stopped. He seemed to be heading straight toward her. He came up to her quickly, looming out of the darkness. His shadowy face hovered over hers. "Lee!" she gasped. His dark eyes caught the moonlight. He had that same leering smile on his face. "Roxy, what's wrong?" Lee asked in a low voice, a voice filled with unmistakable menace. "You look like a frightened rabbit." Roxy didn't reply. She turned and searched for Terry. "Terry?" Her voice came out a choked whisper. "Terry?" He was gone. Chapter 17. "What's wrong?" Lee demanded, his dark eyes burning into hers. You scared me," Roxy told him. He snickered. She could see that he was enjoying her fright. She turned back, searching for Terry. Where was he? Why had he disappeared? Why had he left her alone with this murderer? "Nice night," Lee said, stepping closer, blocking her view of the water. Roxy tried to step back, but nearly tripped over a tall, jutting rock. "I still can't believe I can walk to the beach whenever I want," Lee continued. "Back home in Springdale, we had to drive for hours to even get to a lake." What does he want? Roxy asked herself, chilled with terror. Did he follow me here? Does he plan to hurt me? Lee took another step closer. He was like a dark shadow, a shadow looming over her, ready to swallow her up in darkness. "Hey!" Roxy turned at the sound of Terry's cry. "Terry, where'd you go?" He lumbered out from behind a cluster of tall rocks. She saw that he was carrying something in both hands. "Look what I found crawling around back there," he said. He was beside Roxy before he noticed Lee. "Hey, Lee, I didn't see you." Lee gave a two-fingered salute to Terry. "What's up, Terry?" Terry held up the treasure he had found. A large turtle, all four of its legs churning the air as Terry lifted it. "Pretty big turtle," Lee commented, moving closer and rubbing his hand on the back of the shell. "You going to make soup?" Terry laughed. Roxy kept her eyes warily on Lee. "I'm going to keep him," Terry announced. "I'm going to put him on a leash and walk him on the beach." "Cool," Lee muttered, petting the turtle's bumpy shell. "I'm going to name him Spot," Terry said. "Here, Spot! Here, Spot!" And he'll come running when he hears his name. "I don't think turtles run very often," Lee replied, "except in cartoons." "Spot loves to run, don't you, boy?" Terry asked. He raised the turtle to his face and rubbed noses with it. "Oh, gross!" Roxy yelled, breaking her silence. Terry laughed. "Here, I changed my mind. I'm giving the turtle to you." He shoved it toward Roxy. Roxy stepped back, raising both hands in protest. "Me? Why me?" "You need a pet," Terry told her, pushing the turtle into her hands. "You can keep it in that big tin pan, the one you had all those snails in." Roxy took the turtle in both hands. It was heavier than she had imagined. It immediately ducked its head and legs deep into the shell. "See, it likes you," Terry joked. "You're going to keep it? It's an early birthday present." "Yeah, I guess," Roxy told him. "I'll keep him for a little while anyway. Julie, my little cousin, is supposed to come visit for a week. She'll get a kick out of him." Roxy glanced up from the turtle and saw Lee staring at her, a hard, cold stare. "Let's get the turtle back to your place," Terry was saying. Lee continued to stare. "See you later," he said softly. Lee's eyes burned meaningfully into Roxy's. "See you later," he repeated, speaking each word slowly and deliberately, a message for her alone. A threat, she knew. Another attempt to frighten her. Carrying the turtle in front of her, she hurried to catch up with Terry. When she glanced back a minute later, she saw Lee still standing in the same spot, a black shadow against the rocks, staring after her. "I put the turtle in the snail pan," Roxy told Shauna. She moved the phone closer to her on the bed. "How big is it?" Shauna asked, yawning. "Big," Roxy replied. Her parents had gone to bed early. After setting up the turtle and saying goodnight to Terry, Roxy had wandered up to her room. Still dressed, still troubled about Lee, she didn't feel like going to sleep. She tried reading, but couldn't concentrate. She flipped through the TV channels, but didn't find anything interesting. Glancing at the clock radio beside her bed, she saw that it was a little after 11. Shauna stays up late every night, Roxy remembered. So she had called Shauna. They chatted about the turtle, about Roxy's French class, about Shauna's new boyfriend. Then Roxy decided she had to ask her about Lee. "Did Lee ever mention a girl named Maddie when you were going out with him?" Roxy asked, feeling the muscles in her neck tense as she thought about Lee. "Maddie?" A thoughtful silence on Shauna's end. "You mean the dead girl?" "Yeah," Roxy replied. "She was from Springdale, same as Lee. Did he ever mention her to you?" "No," Shauna said after another pause. "He never talked much about Springdale. He bragged that he had a lot of girlfriends, I remember, but he never talked about them." "You're sure?" Roxy insisted. "Yeah, I remember Lee told me he got in some heavy-duty trouble at Springdale," Shauna continued. "I guess it was a bad time for him. He never really wanted to talk about it. I think he was happy to be making a new start here in Rocky Shores." "Some new start," Roxy thought bitterly. "He killed her," Roxy blurted out. "I told you, Shauna. I heard the whole thing. "Are you okay?" Shauna interrupted, her voice filled with concern. "Are your parents home? Do you need me to come over or something?" "No, I'm okay," Roxy told her, lowering her voice. "Thanks. My parents are asleep, but I'm okay. I just can't stop thinking about it, Shauna. And everywhere I go, Lee is there, staring at me with that horrible sick smile on his face." "He always smiles like that, Roxy," Shauna replied. "Don't pay any attention to it. I've seen that look a million times. He thinks it's sexy or something." I don't know what to do," Roxy stammered, gripping the phone so tightly her hand ached. "The police let him go, right?" Shauna said. "Lee was at that charity thing the night that girl was murdered. He wasn't in his house. He—" "Wait a minute," Roxy interrupted. She removed the receiver from her ear and listened. Yes, the sound repeated. Knocking. Downstairs. Someone knocking on the front door. She sat up on the bed and glanced at the clock radio. A little past 11:30. Who could be knocking this late? Roxy knew her parents wouldn't hear it. They were such heavy sleepers. "Shauna, I've got to hang up. Someone's downstairs." Call me back if you need to talk, Shauna said. Roxy thanked her and hung up. She climbed to her feet and listened. The knocking repeated, soft but insistent. A burst of wind made the window curtains flap. Oh! Roxy cried out, startled. Calm down, girl, she scolded herself. You can't jump out of your skin at every sound you hear. Taking a slow, deep breath, she made her way down the hall to the stairs. She stopped at the landing. The lights downstairs were all turned off. The stairway was dark. The knocking repeated, 4 short knocks. Whoever it is sure is insistent, Roxy thought. Ignoring the heavy feeling of dread that knotted her stomach, she made her way down the dark stairway. She jumped when a door slammed upstairs. Probably her bedroom door, she realized, her heart pounding. Probably her bedroom door pushed by the wind. 4 more knocks. Roxy stopped at the door, raising her hand to the knob. It felt warm in her cold hand. Who's there? Her voice came out a hushed whisper. No reply. She tried again. Who's there? A little louder this time. No reply. She pressed forward and peered through the tiny round peephole in the door. Darkness. Only darkness. Breathing hard, she turned the knob and pulled the door open a crack. Lee, what do you want? She cried out in a hoarse whisper. Without replying, he reached out a hand to grab her. Chapter 18. Roxy gasped and tried to slam the door shut, but Lee had jammed his arm in the doorway. As her eyes focused in the darkness, Roxy saw that he wasn't reaching out to grab her. He had something in his hand. It's yours, Lee called as she let the door swing open. You left it on the beach. She took it from his hand, the blue sweater she had tied around her waist. Roxy stared at it, trying to force her heart to stop pounding. It's yours, right? Lee demanded, leaning close. The wind swayed the trees behind him. The front yard seemed to be whispering, alive. Yeah, thanks, Roxy managed to choke out. She gripped the sweater tightly, raised it to her chest, as if for protection. His face was covered in shadow. She couldn't see his expression. Thanks, Roxy repeated. It was nice of you. She started to close the door. He didn't move. My parents are asleep, Roxy told him. So, want to go for a ride? He asked suddenly. Huh? A ride, in my boat tomorrow. After lunch, maybe? No, Roxy answered quickly. Too quickly. Even in the darkness, she could see his eyes narrow under his shark's cap and his jaws tighten. I can't tomorrow, she stammered. Oh, okay. Some other time, he replied in a low voice that revealed no emotion at all. Then he repeated the threat he had made on the beach. See you later. A casual phrase, not said casually at all. He turned and jumped down off the stoop. She didn't watch him leave. She slammed the door shut, breathing hard, pressed her back against it, shaking all over. On her way to French class the next morning, Eric Fraser, a guy she barely knew, stopped her in the hallway. Roxy, did you really see the murder? He asked, pushing his glasses up on his nose. Roxy gaped at him in surprise. Who told you about it? She demanded. Eric shrugged. It's been going around. Is it true? No, it's not true, Roxy insisted angrily. Who is talking about me, Eric? Everyone, he replied. He shifted his backpack on his shoulder. You really didn't see the murder, Ursula said. Ursula, Roxy cried shrilly, cutting him off. Ursula's been telling everyone? She didn't wait for his reply. She spun around and stormed down the hall to the front office. Why is Ursula telling everyone? Roxy asked herself. What if Terry finds out? Maybe Lee didn't see me that night, she told herself. Maybe he doesn't know that I was there in his house. But if everyone's talking about it, he'll hear too. He'll find out from somebody. And then, what will happen to me? She burst into the office. Ursula and the other 2 workers were typing away, heads lowered at their keyboards. They all looked up as the door slammed behind Roxy. Ursula, I have to talk to you, Roxy blurted out in a shrill, angry voice. Ursula's mouth opened in surprise. Are you okay? No, I'm not. Shh. Ursula raised a finger to her lips and pointed to the inner office. Not now, Roxy, she whispered. Mr. Rooney is here today? Ursula, I don't believe you, Roxy shrieked, ignoring her friend's plea. I'll meet you after your class, Ursula promised, glancing worriedly at the principal's door. Promise? I'm only working a half day. I'll walk you home. Roxy steamed all through the class. She barely heard a word the instructor said, and she couldn't focus on the review quiz at the end of the hour. She was pretty sure she flunked it. All she could think about were kids whispering about her. telling each other how she had been in Lee's house that night, that horrible night, the night Maddie Andrews was murdered. After class, Eric called to her, but she ignored his shouts and hurried to the office. Ursula was already shutting off her computer, closing up the file she had been copying. She glanced up at Roxy and flashed her a tense smile. TGIF, she said, I love these half days. Roxy didn't say anything until they were out of the building, walking the 3 blocks to her house. It was a breezy, warm day, puffy clouds floating high in a pale sky. The trees shimmered overhead, showing off their fresh leaves. Why are you upset with me? Ursula asked quietly, slowing her stride so that Roxy could keep up. Why did you tell everyone about me being in Lee's house? Roxy demanded, unable to keep the anger out of her voice. Tell everyone? I didn't? Ursula stopped and turned to face Roxy. She raised her right hand, and her expression grew solemn. I swear, Roxy, I only told a couple of people, and that was before the police let Lee go. It was when we both thought he was going to be locked up. How many people did you tell? Roxy asked, frowning. Only 1 or 2, Ursula said, keeping her right hand in the air as if taking an oath. Shauna already knew. I swear, Roxy, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry too, Roxy murmured. They started walking again. Roxy felt her anger drain away. She couldn't be angry at Ursula. Ursula was her best friend. I haven't told Terry any of this, Roxy confessed as they crossed the street onto her block. If he finds out... You can explain it to him, Ursula assured her. Tell him it was all my idea. Tell him it was another one of our dumb bets. He'll believe it. Think so? Roxy asked doubtfully. You know how jealous Terry can be sometimes. Just blame it all on me, Ursula said. Roxy's 2-story gray shingle house came into view. Roxy blinked when she saw the garage door was open. That's weird, she thought. My mom is always so careful to close it when she leaves in the morning. Know what you need? Ursula asked suddenly, her blue eyes lighting up. You need some fun? Something to take your mind off what happened? Want to come skating tonight? Roxy brushed a strand of dark hair off her forehead. Skating? Shauna and I are going to Blade Runners tonight, Ursula said. You know, to skate and just hang out. Why don't you come too? Roxy smiled. Sounds excellent. I'll ask Terry. Maybe he can come. He's a really good skater. Great, Ursula said, returning the smile. Come on in. I'll throw together some sandwiches for lunch, Roxy said, starting up the front walk. She stopped when she saw the turtle on the front stoop. How had it escaped from the tin pan? Hey, you, she called to it, running to the stoop. You have to get back where you belong. She started to pick it up, then gasped. Oh, Ursula, look! The turtle sprawled lifelessly on the concrete. Its head had been smashed flat. Its shell was cracked in a dozen places. Roxy raised her eyes to a heavy steel mallet that lay against the front door. Oh, oh! Low moans escaped Roxy's throat. Wedged under the mallet was a folded-up white sheet of paper. Roxy reached out a trembling hand and pulled up the sheet of paper. The mallet handle clanged dully against the concrete. What is it? What does it say? Ursula demanded impatiently. It took Roxy a while to unfold the paper. Then she stared at it, waiting for her eyes to focus on the crudely scribbled words. They were written in brown crayon, printed in block letters, to resemble a child's writing. Swallowing hard, Roxy read the words out loud. This will be you if you keep talking. Chapter 19. Hey, how do you stop these things? Terry roared out of control across the enormous flat skating rink, his arms straight out as if he were on a tightrope. Roxy laughed as he crashed heavily into the railing against the far wall. He looks like a circus bear, she thought. He turned back to her, grinning. Is that how you stop? She skated over to him, gliding smoothly, and took his arm. Stop clowning around. You know you're a good skater. She pulled him away from the railing. They skated side by side, passing Ursula and Shauna and 3 other guys from school. Then Roxy demonstrated how to break a rollerblade. Now you try it, she instructed, knowing he knew perfectly well how to break. Terry brushed back his red hair, a look of concentration on his face. He lowered the brake pad to the rink surface, and toppled forward, sprawling on the concrete with a loud oof. I like my way better, he grumbled, allowing Roxy to pull him to his feet. She laughed. You've been watching Three Stooges movies again, haven't you? Ursula and the others skated past, shouting insults at Terry and shaking their heads. Roxy skated after them, gliding gracefully, swinging her right hand in rhythm with her legs. She loved skating. It felt good to be moving so quickly, so effortlessly. She took a shortcut across the center of the rink and caught up with Ursula. Not very crowded tonight, Ursula said, leaning forward and picking up speed. It's such a hot night. I guess most people are at the beach. She edged in front of Roxy. Roxy quickened her stride, swinging her arm harder, and caught up to her friend. The bright green and blue walls of the rink flew by in a blur. It's good to see you laughing, Ursula said, especially after this afternoon. My dad called the police, Roxy reported. He told them about the turtle. Ursula nodded solemnly. They skated side by side for a short while. Ursula took long, easy strides. Roxy had to hurry to keep up. The rollerblades hummed over the concrete. Ursula skated faster, glancing back at Roxy with a sly wink. Before Roxy realized it, they were in a race. She lowered her head and struggled to pick up speed. That's Ursula, she thought, breathing hard, catching up, passing her for just a moment before Ursula with her long legs took the lead again. We can't just skate. No way. With Ursula, it has to be a race. By the time they had circled the large rink twice, Ursula was way ahead. Roxy slowed down, hands on her knees, and watched Ursula's athletic stride, her blonde hair flying behind her, catching the light of the bright overhead spotlights. You win, Roxy called to her, laughing breathlessly. For a change. She skated back to Terry, who was clowning around for some little kids, skating backwards, flailing his arms around, pretending to lose his balance. The kids thought he was a riot. Roxy grabbed the rail and stopped to catch her breath. Shauna waved as she skated past. Ursula wins again, she cried to Roxy. So what else is new? Roxy called back dryly. She watched Terry and his stunts for a while. Then she turned her eyes to Shauna and the others, moving energetically in a steady rhythm around the rink. This is so great, Roxy told herself happily. I actually forgot about Lee and the murder for a while. I was forgetting what it's like to have a normal, happy life. Smiling, she pushed away from the railing and started skating slowly toward Terry. She braked quickly when she heard the scream, a shrill, high-pitched scream, followed by a second one, screams of terror. It took Roxy a while to recognize them, to realize that they were coming from Ursula. Chapter 20. Roxy saw Terry spin away from the kids and begin skating rapidly in the direction of the screams. Her heart pounding, Roxy followed. A crowd had already gathered around Ursula, who was sprawled on her back against the far wall, her knees bent, her blonde hair down against the concrete. Ursula, what happened? Roxy cried, pushing past several kids to get to her friend. Ursula groaned and rolled her eyes. I fell? She lowered her hands to the floor and tried to pull herself up. Ow, my ankle? How? Terry asked. Back spasm, Ursula said. My back gave out. I guess it wasn't ready for skating. I fell and landed on my ankle. Wow, it's swelling up already? She reached down and touched the ankle tenderly. I don't know which hurts the most, my ankle or my back. Is the ankle broken? Roxy demanded, bending over her friend with concern. I don't think so. I don't know, Ursula replied, her face pale under the bright lights. She winced in pain, but grabbed the rail and struggled to her feet. You've got to put ice on it right away, Shauna advised from behind Roxy. Ursula tried to take a step, but cried out in pain. She grabbed onto Terry to keep from falling again. Ow, ow, ow. Roxy knew it really must hurt for Ursula to make such a fuss. Let me help get the skates off, she offered, dropping to her knees and starting to unlace the right skate. A short while later, Roxy had them both off. Ursula, still leaning on Terry, tried to walk again, but the ankle was too painful. I'm going to drive her home, Terry told Roxy. Is that okay? Roxy nodded. Of course. Then should I come back? Terry asked. Roxy glanced up at the wall clock over the front entrance. It's pretty late, she told Terry. I think I'm going to skate for a few minutes more, just to unwind. Then I'll walk home. Terry started to protest, but Roxy reminded him it was only a 10-minute walk. I'll go with you, Shauna told Terry. Roxy watched the three of them make their way to the door. Ursula leaned heavily on Terry. Shauna ran to return the rollerblades. With a sigh, Roxy turned back to the rink and started to skate. I just need to move, she thought. She loved the rush of air through her dark hair as she skated, loved the easy feel of gliding, gliding, gliding. The skates hummed and whirred beneath her. She lost all track of time. She was in an easy, gliding, humming world of her own. When she finally turned in the skates, the rink was nearly empty. Wiping perspiration from her forehead with a tissue, Roxy stepped out into the cool night. She took a deep breath, then another. She could smell the ocean sound in the air, the sweet, sour aroma of salt and fish. She crossed the brightly lit parking lot, empty except for 2 cars at the side, and made her way to the dark sidewalk. Her leg muscles tingled pleasantly from the exercise she had given them inside the rink. Her heart was still racing. She shivered, feeling the chill night air against her overheated body. Crossing the street, Roxy found herself thinking about Ursula. Once again she pictured Terry helping Ursula from the rink, Ursula wincing in pain every time she had to step down on a hurt ankle. I'll call her as soon as I get home, Roxy thought, passing along a tall hedge, dark and solid as a wall. I hope she didn't have to go to the emergency room. Roxy was halfway down the block before she realized she was being followed. At first, she thought the rapidly approaching footsteps were those of a dog out for a late-night stroll. But then she turned and saw a shadowy figure moving along the tall hedge toward her. Roxy sucked in a long breath of air and picked up her pace. The footsteps behind her quickened, came closer, closer. She realized she couldn't outrun her pursuer. She stopped, spun around. Who is it?" she choked out. Lee stepped out of the shadows, his dark eyes glowing beneath the shark's cap. "Roxy, I saw you," he murmured.